List of Disney's Sleeping Beauty characters. The following are fictional characters in Disney's 1959 film Sleeping Beauty. Princess Aurora. Princess Aurora is the title character of the film. After Maleficent, an evil fairy, curses her when she is only a baby, Aurora is taken to the woods by Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather, where her name is changed to Briar Rose to conceal her identity from Maleficent. Aurora is the third official Disney princess. Later in the story, the three good fairies are preparing for her birthday when they plan to surprise her with the news that she is a princess. But when Princess Aurora, renamed Briar Rose, returns with the news of meeting a handsome and enchanting man, the fairies must tell her she can never see him again. Like Aurora, they do not know who he really is. The three fairies tell her about the future that is set for her, and that night they take her back to the castle. Aurora is saddened that she will never see the man from the forest and breaks into tears. The three fairies exit the room they secretly entered so as to let the princess have a few moments alone. Aurora suddenly sees a floating spark of light cast by Maleficent and, in a trance, follows the spark through the back of the fireplace and up a staircase to a tower room where the spark of light turns into a spinning wheel. The three good fairies try to stop her, but are too late when Aurora pricks her finger on the spindle and collapses in sleep. She is put in a bed by the fairies where she can sleep peacefully within the highest tower. Aurora is later awakened by Philip's kiss of true love, which finally breaks the curse. She also learned that her love and her betrothed were exactly the same person. During the movie's final scenes, Aurora and Philip dance. Maleficent. Maleficent is the mistress of all evil who, after not being invited to a christening, curses the infant Princess Aurora to prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel and die before the sun sets on her 16th birthday. Merryweather was able to weaken the curse, though, by changing it from death to sleep. The night when Aurora returned to her father's castle, the moment Aurora was alone, Maleficent seized the chance to lure her into pricking her finger on the spinning wheel's spindle. Despite the efforts of the three good fairies, she succeeded in fulfilling her curse. She then proceeded to trap Prince Philip and lock him in her dungeon. However, the three good fairies free Philip after she left him. Upon learning of this from her pet raven, who got turned to stone in the process by Merryweather, she tried to stop him with a series of lightning bolts, but failed. She went as far as conjuring a forest of thorns, but Philip easily cut his way to the gate. With no other choice, she flew to the gate of King Stephen's castle and turned into a huge dragon to battle the prince herself. Despite pushing Philip to the edge of a cliff, Philip threw his sword of truth, which was blessed by the three good fairies' magic, and struck Maleficent directly in the heart, and it was more than enough to kill her. All that was left of her was a black and purple mess on the ground, with the sword still embedded in it as it blackened. Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather. Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather are the good fairy godmothers. They are based on the good fairies appearing in the original French fairy tale and various retellings. Like their fairy tale counterparts, Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather appear at baby Aurora's christening to present their gifts to the newborn Princess Aurora. Their wings are very small. They use their magical powers to help both Princess Aurora and Prince Philip. Prince Philip. Prince Philip is Aurora's true love, voiced by Bill Shirley. Philip is based on the prince from the original French fairy tale that appears 100 years after the princess is put to sleep by Maleficent's curse, having heard the story of the sleeping princess and entered the castle. He trembled upon seeing the princess's beauty and fell on his knees before her. He kissed her, then she woke up, and then everyone lived happily ever after. Unlike the prince from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and Prince Charming from Cinderella, Philip was the first prince in Disney theatrical animated features to be given a proper name and a full character. At Aurora's birth, it was said that Philip would marry the princess, the daughter of his father's best friend. A young Philip presents a gift to the infant Aurora at her christening, but is less than impressed when he sees her. The event is interrupted by Maleficent, who appears and curses Aurora, causing the three good fairies to take Aurora into the forest to raise her. Years later, Philip is riding in the forest and hears Aurora, now known as Briar Rose, singing. He follows her voice and starts singing with her. She tries to run away, but he follows her. By the end of the song, they have fallen in love. However, Aurora realizes she is disobeying her aunts and leaves, but not before telling Philip she will be celebrating her birthday at her cottage in the middle of the forest. After being captured by Maleficent and thrown into her dungeon after arriving at Briar Rose's home, the three good fairies rescue him so that he in turn can save Aurora. Philip escapes Maleficent's castle and is the target of Maleficent's fury, who hurls lightning bolts and later conjures a forest of thorns at him. At the gates of the castle, Philip battles Maleficent, who has turned into a dragon. Philip is victorious and slays Maleficent with the Sword of Truth. He kisses Aurora, and she wakes up. They then go downstairs arm in arm and share a dance after Aurora meets her parents. In Disney Princess Enchanted Tales, Follow Your Dreams, Philip is one of the characters from Sleeping Beauty to make an appearance, now voiced by Roger Craig Smith. At the beginning of the Keys to the Kingdom segment, Philip is set to leave the kingdom along with his father and Aurora's parents for 2 days for a royal conference, leaving Aurora to reign over it in their absence. Before departing, Philip encourages Aurora to do a good job while in charge of the kingdom and tells her to look at the brightest star at night, as he will be doing the same. Philip returns at the end of the segment and is part of the celebration for Aurora's duty. Philip also appears in Disney/Square's Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep in his homeworld, Enchanted Dominion. He is voiced by Josh Robert Thompson. Philip plays a very similar role to that of the original film, meeting Aurora at the forest and singing along with her. Later, Philip fights along with Aqua, an original character from the video game, in the battle against Maleficent's goons and Maleficent in her dragon form. Philip defeats Maleficent with his sword, however, unlike the film, Maleficent is not killed, but merely weakened to the point that she reverts to her first form. Philip goes on to kiss Aurora and break Maleficent's spell on her. In the original Kingdom Hearts, Enchanted Dominion has been swallowed by the Heartless and Philip himself has disappeared, but is presumably restored after Sora defeats Ansem at the end of the game. Philip is one of the many Disney characters that appear in the TV series Disney's House of Mouse. He also appears in theme parks and live events. Philip is featured in the Disney Heroes franchise, a toy line similar but much less successful than the Disney Princess franchise. Philip and Maleficent in dragon form appear in stylized versions, somehow different from their regular appearance. A live-action version of Prince Philip appeared in Disney's live-action film Maleficent, portrayed by Brenton Thwaites. In this interpretation, Philip is sent by his father, King John of Ulster, to King Stephen's castle on a business matter, but encounters Aurora along the way. Although they do not marry in the end, their relationship is left with the potential to become something deeper. In Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, Harris Dickinson portrayed Philip since Thwaites was unable to reprise the role due to scheduling conflicts. King Stephen is Aurora's father, voiced by Taylor Holmes in his last role, replacing Hans Conried, who ironically happens to be the live-action model for Stephen for the voice role. The king is happily married to Queen Lee and is delighted with the birth of their daughter. A celebration is held to present Aurora to the kingdom. Announced by the herald, Stephen's closest friend, King Hubert, attends the celebration, during which Aurora is betrothed to Hubert's young son, Prince Philip. The evil fairy Maleficent appears and very angry at everyone for being omitted from the celebration. She curses the infant Aurora to die on her 16th birthday by pricking her finger on a spinning wheel spindle as retribution for being uninvited. One of Aurora's fairy godmothers, Merryweather, was able to temper the curse's deadly effect, and the fairies later offer to hide Aurora until after her 16th birthday. Still fearful of his daughter's life, Stephen decrees all spinning wheels in the kingdom burned, though Flora Merryweather, and Fauna knew that this will not stop Maleficent. Stefan, Lee, and the kingdom are saddened by Aurora's absence. 16 years pass, and the king and queen prepare for Aurora's return. Stefan and Hubert discuss their respective kingdoms' futures and Aurora and Prince Philip's impending marriage. Stefan prefers the couple spend time together before being wed, while Hubert has already had a new castle made ready for them. Later, Stefan and the entire kingdom wait for Aurora's arrival, unaware she has already pricked her finger into a cursed slumber that only true love's kiss can awaken. To protect everyone from being heartbroken, the fairies put a sleeping spell all over the entire kingdom, including Stefan, his wife, and Hubert. At the end, everyone, including Stefan, his wife, and Hubert awakens, and he and his wife are reunited with Aurora. He later watches her dancing with Prince Philip, along with his wife and Hubert. In Disney Princess Enchanted Tales, Follow Your Dreams, King Stefan, now voiced by Corey Burton, departs with Queen Lee, King Hubert, and Prince Philip to a royal conference, leaving Princess Aurora to rule the kingdom. He is seen at the end of the first segment as he is about to enter his castle when his majordomo, Lord Duke, warns him against entering. The hall is filled with animals, a situation that is solved by Aurora just before Stefan enters. He attends the celebration that Aurora has organized along with his wife, Hubert, Philip, the fairies, and Lord Duke. In the Disney's live-action film Maleficent, King Stefan is portrayed by Sharlto Copley. As an orphaned farm boy, Stefan became Maleficent's childhood companion, but his ambition to become king resulted in him betraying Maleficent. He severed her wings to win the dying King Henry's favor. Due to Aurora's curse and his vindictive drive to kill Maleficent, Queen Lee Queen Lee and her husband are the monarchs of an unnamed European kingdom, presumably in medieval France, though the film doesn't explain or tell where they took place, and some debates where the film could be set in. After many years of marriage, she gives birth to a beautiful baby daughter, whom she and her husband name Aurora. Her happiness is ill-fated when Maleficent, who wasn't invited, curses her daughter. Devastated, she has to see her daughter taken away by the fairies in order to protect her. 16 years later, she is waiting the return of her daughter, but when Aurora touches the spindle, the queen and the entire kingdom are put in a sleep by the good fairies. When Maleficent is defeated and Aurora awakened by Philip, she awakens with her husband and his friend and finally meets her daughter, whom she embraces and cries tears of happiness when she sees her. In the short segment, Stefan, Lee, Hubert, and Philip all go off on a royal ceremony where Hubert is due to give a speech. Trusting their daughter, Stefan and Lee give Aurora the keys to the kingdom while they are away. In Disney's live-action film Maleficent, Queen Lee, now under the name of Queen Layla, was portrayed by Hannah New. She is the only daughter of the ruthless King Henry, King Stefan's predecessor. She remains loyal to her father by becoming Stefan's wife and later bearing his child. She would soon witness Maleficent, her husband's former friend whom he had betrayed, placing a curse on her daughter, Aurora. Shortly before Aurora's 16th birthday, Layla becomes gravely ill and dies off-screen. Stefan shows no grief over her death, as he has become paranoid and obsessed with killing Maleficent, but later notes his daughter's resemblance to her mother. Queen Lee also briefly appears in the Disney Channel original movie Descendants. She meets Mal, daughter of Maleficent, and blames her for Maleficent's actions. She is seen at the coronation holding on to her granddaughter Audrey after they got frozen by Maleficent. King Hubert King Hubert is Philip's father, voiced by Bill Thompson. King Hubert and his best friend, King Stefan, had betrothed their children to marry each other when the time comes, so that their kingdoms remain forever united. He is invited to Aurora's christening and witnesses Maleficent cursing Aurora. Though the baby princess Aurora is taken away by Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather, the betrothal remains the same. Hubert is next seen as 16 years have passed and Stefan is preparing the celebration for Aurora's return. King Hubert and King Stefan, are talking about their children and their kingdoms when the conversation almost results in a fight until both kings realize they are about to fight for no reason. The scene is interrupted by Philip's arrival. Prince Philip tells his father that he has met a young woman in the forest and that he will marry her against his father's will. Unbeknownst to Hubert, this young woman is Aurora under the disguise of Briar Rose, the fake identity the fairies have given her to protect her from Maleficent. King Hubert is enraged at his son for even entertaining the notion of marrying a peasant girl, but Philip somewhat humorously says to his father royalty must start considering new ideas, for it is the 14th century after all. Dismayed at failing to dissuade his son from his expected betrothal, Hubert proceeds to tell King Stephen the bad news. During these events, Maleficent's curse has been fulfilled and Aurora has fallen into a deep sleep, so the fairies decide to put everyone else asleep. Just as he is falling asleep, King Hubert is telling an already sleeping King Stephen that Philip is in love with a peasant girl, which makes Flora realize that it was Philip whom Aurora met in the forest. King Hubert wakes up at the end of the film, resuming his conversation with King Stephen, and is about to tell him that Philip loves a peasant girl when Aurora and Philip are seen coming down the hall staircase, which leaves Hubert confused but satisfied. King Hubert is one of the characters from Sleeping Beauty that return in Disney Princess Enchanted Tales, Follow Your Dreams, now voiced by Jeff Bennett. He attends a royal conference along with Prince Philip, King Stephen, and Queen Lee, in which King Hubert is due to give a speech. However, King Hubert realizes he has forgotten his speech at King Stephen's castle only when he is already at the royal conference. King Hubert tries to find it everywhere until the fairies arrive and deliver him his speech. Hubert is next seen at the end of the film attending a meal organized by Aurora. In Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, he is portrayed by Robert Lindsay and renamed to King John of Ulster, along with his wife Queen Ingrid. Unlike Ingrid, he seeks to establish peace between Ulster and the Moors. Following his son's engagement, John and Ingrid hold a banquet to celebrate the young couple's upcoming nuptials. During the dinner, tensions rise while Maleficent and Ingrid discuss the fatalities on their respective sides, each claiming the other is responsible. When Maleficent loses her temper, Ingrid enacts her secret plan to overthrow the king by cursing him with a spindle and blaming Maleficent. Now, under a sleeping curse, Philip urges his mother to kiss John, falsely believing in their relationship, but it doesn't work, as Ingrid secretly despises her husband for desiring peace. The king's cursed state sets off the motions, resulting in a war between Ulster and magical beings of the Moors as well as the Dark Fae. Afterwards, Prince Philip ends the war between Ulster and all the fairies, and Ingrid is turned into a goat for her tyranny. Maleficent destroys the spindle and breaks the curse, awakening the king. He is later seen attending the wedding between Aurora and Philip at the end, telling Philip how proud he is of him for succeeding in achieving peace between Ulster and the Moors. Although he doesn't directly appear in Maleficent, he sends his son Prince Philip to King Stephen's castle. Diablo the Raven. Diablo is Maleficent's pet raven. The source of his name is not clear, as he is never named in the film. Diablo is present at Aurora's christening, during which Maleficent curses the baby. When Maleficent's goons inform their mistress that they have spent 16 years searching for a baby, she sends Diablo to look for Aurora. Diablo flies over the forest looking for any sign of the princess until he discovers the cottage where she is living with the fairies due to some magic caused by Flora and Merryweather. After informing his mistress, Diablo joins Maleficent as she and the goons capture Philip in the cottage, and notices the fairies' presence in the Forbidden Mountain while Maleficent is unaware of it. Diablo later discovers that Philip has escaped with the fairies' aid, and commands the goons to stop them from leaving the mountain. Merryweather returns and chases Diablo round Maleficent's tower until she turns him into a stone raven, but the raven was able to attract attention to Maleficent, who learned about his fate and the escaping Prince Philip. He was voiced by Dal McKennon in the original film and is currently voiced by Sam Riley. Diablo plays a small but vital role in the Kingdom Hearts series, first in Kingdom Hearts Roman 2, where he carried Maleficent's cloak into Yensid's tower to ensure her revival, and then Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance to deliver a message to Mickey. Portrayed by Sam Riley in the live-action film Maleficent, Diaval is introduced as a raven whom Maleficent saved to be her servant. Throughout the film, Maleficent and Diaval's relationship develops from that of a servant and mistress and blossoms into a deep friendship. Using her magic, Diaval can be turned into a human or any other animal Maleficent wishes, for example mostly a man and a raven but also wolf, horse, dragon, and bear. Samson the horse. Samson is Prince Philip's pet horse, who appears in the two films. He is very fond of Aurora, but can become jealous when Philip shows affection towards her. He is voiced by Frank Welker in Disney Princess Enchanted Tales, Follow Your Dreams. Maleficent's goons. Maleficent's army is made up of goblin-type creatures that resemble boars, hawks, alligators, goats, bats, vultures, and other creatures. Though loyal, the goons have low intelligence as due to unclear orders from Maleficent, who is infuriated with their stupidity. They spent 16 years searching for an infant, Aurora, rather than a girl of proper age. The goons later appear to capture Prince Philip in the cottage where the three fairies were hiding Aurora, and again attempting to thwart his escape by pushing boulders. Flora turns them into bubbles, shooting arrows. Flora turns them into flowers, and pouring boiling oil. Flora turns it into a rainbow. The goons make cameo appearances in Who Framed Roger Rabbit 1988, Disney's House of Mouse, and Kingdom Hearts, Birth by Sleep.